I was listening to a podcast in the car with my children in the car with me, and it was a podcast about the Enneagram. And at some point in the conversation, one of the hosts said, well, let's talk about different Christian leaders and try to guess what type these people are on the Enneagram. And so they went through Beth Moore and Tim Keller and some other people. And then at some point they mentioned Russell Moore, and people offered different ideas. And the host said, well, actually, he has said that he's an Enneagram type 4. At which point, one of the people on the podcast said, oh, no, I like Russell Moore, and a 4 is a terrible person. And so my kids were like, are you a terrible person, Dad? You're an Enneagram 4, whatever that is. And my instinct was to say, well, I'm one of the different Enneagram 4s, which of course is a classic Enneagram 4 sort of thing to do. But we were thinking about this. It really didn't bother any of us very much, because we're not the sort of people who see the Enneagram as being a defining aspect of our entire lives. What the Enneagram is a tool. It's basically a personality test. A lot of people are very interested in right now. There are many books, some of them good, some of them bad, about the Enneagram. And some people are really into it. Some people are really alarmed by the Enneagram. And they're alarmed for several reasons. They're alarmed because it can be faddish. They're alarmed because they would say, well, there's this air of scientific accuracy that isn't really there. You're not able to do an MRI and tell what Enneagram type someone is. Some people are alarmed because the Enneagram can be connected to some people who maybe aren't doctrinally orthodox. Some of the people who write about the Enneagram a lot. And some of the content can be connected a lot of the time to Jungian archetypes or other things that really aren't resonant with Christianity. But really, those things can be true of all of the different sorts of personality tests that are out there. What I would say is this: you should not even think about the Enneagram or really any other personality test if you're somebody who's prone to faddishness or enthusiasm. You just get focused on something in a way that you become completely defined by it. Or if you're somebody who's kind of prone to fatalism, if you're the sort of person who would think, well, this describes me and that means I'm going to be this particular type of person. Or if you're the kind of person who's prone to self-obsession, just to endless navel-gazing, you probably shouldn't be dealing with personality tests. Or really, if you're the type of person who tends to judge people on the basis of their personality, you probably would be better off not paying much attention to these personality tests. But frankly, that can happen even with spiritual gifts. The scripture tells us that God has given spiritual gifts to everybody within the church. We don't have a sign on our back that tells us what our spiritual gift is that happens after new birth. So you can have people who sometimes can tend to type people just in terms of their spiritual gifts. So when you're looking at, say, the Enneagram or any of these tools, what you're seeing is really just observation. Sure, there's no scientific accuracy to that. There's no scientific accuracy to a lot of different things. The Proverbs talk about watching these patterns of observation. You know not to grab a dog by the ears, for instance. You can see certain things that work with the grain of the universe and certain things that don't. And the Bible presents people with different sorts of personalities and different sorts of motivations. Almost everybody tends to make those classifications, even just between, say, introverts and extroverts. There are all sorts of exceptions to that, but you can tell if you're kind of basically energized by being around people or not, or if that's an emotional expense for you, and that can be helpful. So these tools can help you, if you use them right, to sort of think through your motivations. I'm a 4. It helps me to read about the descriptions of people who are like me, to see, well, this type of person tends to think that something's more real if there's an imagination connection to it, that there can be a sense of melancholy and nostalgia that can come with people who have attributes like mine. Well, that's not coming out of an MRI, but it's something that is observed after looking at lots of different people. I can understand a little bit more when I'm reading about those people, about sort of what my motivations are, but also about what my tendencies towards sin might be. The Enneagram would say that my basic sort of tool of self-destruction would be envy. And I would say, well, I don't seem like an envious person because of how I'm defining envy. But when you look at how this is being defined, well, something's wrong with me that isn't wrong with other people. Well, I can then see some ways that I might sin without knowing that I'm sinning. I might think that something's not resolved in terms of a conflict with someone until it's resolved in my imagination. That might lead to a lack of forgiveness. I can see a lack of contentment that could happen in my life with that sense of living in my imagination. And my wife, who apparently is an Enneagram 2, when I first read the description of her, and it said that kind of their typical defining vice would be pride, I thought, there's no way, my wife is the least prideful person that I know. Yes, but the definition there is of this sense of serving other people to the point of indispensability. And I thought, you know what? That makes sense of some things, because there was somebody came through and put a coupon on our door for this house cleaning service that was like 95% off. And I thought, maybe for our anniversary, I could have this house cleaning service come in and clean the house. And I said it to my wife, who normally, I mean, we all work in the house, but parts of it that are normally what she does, she was offended. And she said, are you saying that our house isn't clean? And I just couldn't get that. When I read that about her, I said, now I get it. It helped me to love her a little bit better, to understand her better. And the same thing is true with people I work with, to realize that we're not all motivated by the same things. So for me, put me in a place alone, let me work in a bookstore with the opportunity for long walks and reflection. That sounds perfect to me. It would be absolute dystopia to some of the people that I know. So some of these personality tests can become sort of an opportunity for self-denial, an opportunity to start thinking through, what does sanctification look like for me? And also to think through, I have a friend that for him, sarcasm directed toward him really is sort of a sign of collegiality, sort of the way that we operate. I have another friend that if I were to do anything like that with him, he would be completely devastated. So a personality test can be just a guide to sort of help you to think through what's common to humanity, and then what's unique about particular people, what's unique about particular types of people. That's not a substitute for knowing that person. You have to know yourself. You have to know that person, not just types. All of us have a lot in common. We're created in the image of God. We're sinners in need of grace. And everyone is unique, especially us fours. Just kidding. But personality tests will help you to love God, love other people, and deny self. Go for it. If not, don't. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what we talked about today? Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what you'd like for us to talk about in the future on this channel. And don't forget to like or share this video if you found it helpful. And make sure that you subscribe and hit notifications so that you can get all of our new videos when they release.